Chosen one, God said, He is truly impressed with you, and I need you to understand what that means. He is not easily moved. He is not generous with that word. He has watched over kings who built nations and prophets who changed the course of history. And yet when he looked at your life, at the way you held your faith together with trembling hands, at the way you chose kindness in seasons that should have made you cruel, at the way you whispered prayers into ceilings that gave you nothing back, he paused, and he said something that heaven reserves for a rare kind of soul. He said, this one impresses me. Not the polished version, not the Sunday version, the Tuesday at 2 in the morning version, the version that stayed when staying made no logical sense. And he does not say that to just anyone. A force beyond anything random brought you to these words right now. Because what I am about to unfold in 5 revelations will show you exactly what God saw in the moments you thought no one was looking, and why he is now preparing something that only someone who impressed him could carry. Do not leave. This was placed here for your spirit. Now, before I begin, I want you to understand the weight of what is ahead. This is not a short encouragement. This is not a feel-good message that fades by tomorrow. Over the course of this entire message, I am going to walk you through 5 revelations, each one deeper than the last. The first will show you what God has been watching. The second will change the way you understand prayer forever. The third will name the battles you thought you fought alone. The fourth will reveal the specific things that made heaven stop and take notice of your life. And the fifth, the closing of this message, will carry a declaration spoken over you that I believe will stay with you for the rest of this season. If you leave early, you will miss the revelation that was meant for you. Stay with me through every part. What is coming will be worth your time. The first thing God wants you to understand is not that he loves you. You already know that. Somewhere deep in your spirit, even on the days when you could barely feel it, you knew he loved you. That was never the question. The question, the one that has been quietly eating at you for months, or maybe even years, is this: does he see me? Does he notice what I am doing when no one else is paying attention? Does it register anywhere that I keep showing up? I am here to tell you that it does, and not in some vague general way, not in the way someone says God sees everything and moves on. He sees you with specificity. He sees you the way a jeweler examines a stone, noticing every angle, every line, every fracture that the untrained eye would miss. And what he has seen in your life recently did not disappoint him. It moved him. Let me show you what I mean. He saw you on that night when you were completely alone, and the silence in the room was so thick it felt like it was pressing against your chest. Nobody called. Nobody checked in. Nobody sent a message. And instead of falling apart, you sat there, you breathed, and you whispered something to God that was barely 2 words long. Maybe it was just, "Help me." Maybe it was just, "I trust you." Maybe you did not even finish the sentence, but he heard it. And that moment was recorded. He saw you in that conversation where someone pushed you to the edge, where every nerve in your body wanted to fire back, where the words were already forming behind your teeth, and you had every right to let them fly. But you did not. You held your tongue. You swallowed the response that would have felt so satisfying for 10 seconds and so destructive for 10 years. And you walked away carrying the weight of restraint that nobody will ever give you credit for. But God gave you credit for it that very second. He saw you on the morning you woke up, and the first thing you felt was not hope, not excitement, not peace. It was heaviness. A fog that sat on your mind like wet concrete, and everything in you said, "Stay down. Today is not your day. Nothing is going to change." And you got up anyway. You moved through the motions. You showed up to a life that was not giving you much reason to show up. And you did it not because you had strength, but because somewhere underneath the exhaustion, a thread of faith refused to snap. God saw that thread, and he held on to it with you. He saw you when you sent that kind message to someone who was struggling, even though you were the one who needed kindness most. You were breaking inside, quietly, invisibly, in a way that would never make it to a single conversation. And still, you reached out to someone else. Still, you checked on them. Still, you showed up for their pain while hiding your own. That was not weakness. That was the kind of strength that heaven measures differently than the world does. And he saw you on that evening when you almost gave up on everything. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that anyone would notice, but in that quiet, internal way where you sat still and thought, maybe none of this matters. Maybe I have been fooling myself. Maybe the calling I felt was just my imagination. And instead of walking away from faith entirely, you made one small choice. You stayed. You did not feel anything. You did not hear anything. You did not receive any confirmation. But you stayed. And that, chosen one, is the moment that moved God most. You might be wondering why those moments matter. They were not grand. They were not public. They were not the kind of thing anyone would put on a highlight reel. And that is exactly the point. Because God is not impressed by performances. He is impressed by what you do when the lights are off and the audience is gone and the only witness is the ceiling above your bed. And I want you to understand something about the fatigue you have been carrying lately. That heaviness in your body that sleep does not seem to fix. That exhaustion that goes deeper than muscles and bones, that is not a sign that something is wrong with you. That is your spirit carrying weight that your body was never designed to hold alone. It is the residue of a spiritual shift so deep that your physical frame is struggling to keep up with what is happening inside you. God sees that too. And he does not look at it with disappointment. He looks at it with respect. Because you kept moving under a load that would have crushed someone who was not chosen for this. Think about David for a moment. Not the king, not the giant slayer, not the one whose name echoes through history. Think about the version of David that nobody talks about. The boy in the field, the teenager watching sheep while his brothers were being celebrated. The one who was anointed by a prophet and then sent right back to obscurity, right back to the dust and the silence and the invisible work. Years passed between that anointing and the throne. Years where nobody called him king. Years where the oil on his head dried and the promise felt like a hallucination. And during those years, God was not absent, God was watching. And what he saw in those hidden fields, in that invisible faithfulness, is what qualified David for everything that came after. God was not impressed with David in the palace. He was impressed with David in the field, where no one was watching except heaven. That is you right now. You are in your field season. And the fact that it is invisible to the world does not make it invisible to God. Right now, you are carbon under pressure. Nobody around you can see what is forming inside the heat and the weight of everything you are carrying. But God can. Because he is the one applying the pressure, and he knows exactly what it produces. A diamond does not need an audience while it is being made. It does not need applause underground. It only needs time and pressure and the hands of someone who knows exactly what the finished stone will look like. God is that jeweler, and he is not rushing your process. He is perfecting it. If God has seen you in any of those moments I just described, type the words, "He sees me," in the comments, and let that truth become personal. Let it seal over your spirit right now before we go any further. Now, if this were the entire message, it would be enough, knowing that God sees your invisible faithfulness, knowing that nothing you carried was wasted, That alone could rewrite how you see yourself. But this is only the first of 5 revelations, and the second one goes somewhere I did not expect when I first received this message. Before I take you there, I want to mention something briefly. Researchers at institutions like MIT and Princeton have been studying a specific frequency in the human brain, a wave pattern that lights up during states of deep faith, heightened intuition, and what some scientists call the genius state. What they discovered is that most adults have lost access to this frequency. It was active and strong when you were a child, when learning was effortless and creativity was natural, and something about the world just felt alive. Some researchers have spent decades investigating this, exploring what they call the youthful brain, that state of neural clarity we carried as children before the modern world slowly dimmed it. I am going to come back to this discovery later in this message because it connects directly to what God is doing in your life right now. But first, there is a word I need to share with you. A single ancient word that will change how you understand every prayer you have ever prayed. In the first revelation, I showed you that God sees you, and that alone carries weight. But seeing and knowing are 2 very different things. You can see someone across a crowded room and know nothing about them. You can watch someone for years and still miss everything that matters. Seeing is passive. It requires only eyes. But knowing, real knowing, requires something far deeper. It requires presence. It requires intimacy. It requires choosing to stay close enough to feel what the other person feels, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is heavy, even when it would be easier to look away. And this is where the second revelation begins. Because God does not just see you, chosen one, He knows you. And the way He knows you is something most people have never truly understood. There is a word in the original Hebrew language that changes everything about this. The word is yada. In English, when we say, God knows you, it sounds clinical. It sounds like information. Like God has a file on you somewhere, with your name and your history and your list of mistakes. But that is not what the Hebrew says. In Hebrew, the word yada is not about data. It is not about observation. Yada is the word used for the deepest, most intimate knowing that exists. It is the same word used to describe a husband knowing his wife. It is experiential. It is felt. It is personal in a way that no other word in the language can capture. When the scripture says, God knows you, it is saying, God has entered into your experience. He has felt what you felt. He did not observe your pain from a safe distance. He sat inside of it with you. He did not watch your loneliness from across the room. He was in the room, and that changes everything. Think about Psalm 139 for a moment. Most people read it and feel exposed. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. And for years, people have read those words and felt like they describe surveillance, like God is some kind of cosmic watcher you cannot escape from. But that is not what David was saying. David was saying something far more tender than that. He was saying, I tried to carry this alone. I tried to go somewhere where I would not need anyone. I tried to bury myself so deep that even God would not follow me there, and He followed me anyway, not to correct me, not to punish me, but because He refused to let me be alone in my pain. That is yada. That is how God knows you. He knows the thoughts you never spoke out loud, the ones that formed at 2 in the morning when the house was quiet and your mind would not stop racing, the fears you were too ashamed to pray about because you thought a chosen one should not feel that way. And that is how God knows you. He knows the version of yourself that you hide from everyone, the version that doubts, the version that wonders if any of this is real, the version that sometimes sits in silence, not because you are at peace, but because you are too tired to pretend anymore. And that is how God knows you. He knows the prayers you gave up on, the ones you stopped praying because it felt pointless, the ones where you asked for something so many times that eventually the asking itself became painful and you just stopped. You thought those prayers evaporated. You thought they dissolved into nothing the moment your faith wavered. But yada means God did not just hear the words. He felt the weight behind them. He felt the hope that was in them and the disappointment that followed when nothing seemed to change. And that is how God knows you. He knows the midnight fears that never made it into a single conversation, the ones about your future, the ones about your children, the ones about whether you will ever actually step into the life you have been believing for. Those fears never left your bedroom. They never reached another human ear, but they reached God, not as information, as intimacy, and that is how God knows you. Now let me tell you what this means for the way you pray, because most people have been praying under the wrong model their entire lives. The old model says, prayer is a performance. You come before God, you say the right words in the right order, with the right tone, and if your faith is strong enough, something happens. And if nothing happens, it must be because you did not pray hard enough, or believe hard enough, or say the right thing at the right time. That model has destroyed more faith than any enemy ever could, because it turns prayer into an audition, and God is not holding auditions. The new model, the one rooted in Yada, says this: prayer is not about performing for God, it is about being known by God. You do not come to God to impress Him with your words. You come to God because He already knows what you cannot say. You come because He already felt what you are carrying before you opened your mouth. And the prayer that you thought failed because nothing changed on the outside, that prayer did not fail. God was not ignoring you. He was processing with you. He was sitting inside the weight of it with you, feeling every ounce of it, holding the thread of your faith when your hands were too tired to hold it yourself. The next time you pray and feel nothing, remember Yada. Remember that the silence is not absence. The silence is God so close that words become unnecessary. And here is where the diamond speaks again. A diamond does not know its own value while it is underground. It cannot see its own clarity. It cannot measure its own worth, but the jeweler does. The jeweler knows because he put it there. He chose the exact depth. He chose the exact pressure. He chose the exact temperature, not to destroy the stone, but to reveal what was always inside it. And God is that jeweler. He knows your value, not because He evaluated you from a distance, but because He has been present for every degree of heat, every pound of pressure, every silent moment that shaped you into what you are becoming. And I hear the Father saying, I did not watch you from a distance. I was in the room. I was in the silence. I was in the breath you took when you thought you had none left. I was the reason you did not break. Not because you were strong enough, but because I held the parts of you that were falling, and I pressed them back together while you slept. You thought you survived on your own. You did not. You survived because I refused to let go of what I started in you. If this changes how you see your prayers, if something shifted inside you when you heard that word, Yada, type, He knows me in the comments. Let that intimate knowing become personal right now. Let it stop being theology and start being your experience. And before we continue, gently press the like, not for me, but so this revelation can reach another chosen one out there who has been praying into ceilings that felt empty. Someone needs to hear this tonight. Your like is what carries it to them. There is a name for what is being prepared for you. Some who have walked this path before you call it destiny's embrace. But that is a revelation for another hour. What matters now is what comes next, because God sees you. That was the first revelation. God knows you, intimately, experientially, with Yada knowing. That was the second. But the third revelation carries a different weight entirely, because it is about the specific battles you thought you fought alone, the ones you never told a single soul about, the ones that happened behind closed doors, inside your own mind, in the quiet hours where no witness existed except you and the darkness. God was present for every single one of them. And what he saw in those battles is the reason he used the word impressed. There are three kinds of battles that a chosen one fights, and none of them come with an audience. The first is the relational battle. This is the one that left marks no one can see. Someone you trusted turned on you. Someone you loved used your vulnerability as a weapon. Someone you built something with walked away and took pieces of you that you are still trying to recover. And the worst part was not the betrayal itself. The worst part was what came after, the silence. The replaying of conversations in your head at 3 a.m, trying to figure out what you did wrong, trying to understand how someone could receive so much from you and still choose to leave. God watched that entire battle. He watched you sit with the wreckage and resist the urge to become cold. He watched you feel the full weight of that pain without letting it harden your heart. And he watched you, weeks or months later, still choosing to be kind to the next person, still choosing to remain open when closing off would have been so much safer. That restraint in the face of relational destruction is not something most people can sustain. But you did, and God took note. The second battle is the internal one. This is the battle nobody ever sees because it happens entirely inside your mind. The fog, the doubt, the mornings when your brain felt like it was running through wet sand and every thought took twice the effort it should have. The days when you questioned your calling, questioned your faith, questioned whether the voice you once heard so clearly was ever real at all. This battle does not announce itself. It does not ask for sympathy. It just sits on your chest and makes everything heavier than it needs to be. And you fought it, not with swords or declarations. You fought it by getting out of bed. You fought it by choosing to believe one more day when the evidence was thin and the feelings were gone. God watched that battle from the inside, chosen one. He was not standing outside evaluating your performance. He was inside the fog with you, holding the parts of your mind that were starting to slip, pressing your thoughts back together when they wanted to scatter. The third battle is the silent one, the one you never told anyone about. Maybe it was financial. Maybe you sat at a table and looked at numbers that did not work and felt the quiet terror of not knowing how you were going to make it through the month. Maybe it was your health, something happening in your body that you carried alone because you did not want to worry the people around you. Maybe it was a secret grief, something you lost that the world never knew you had, something you mourned in private because there was no socially acceptable space to mourn it in public. God watched that battle too. He watched you carry it with dignity. He watched you protect the people around you from the weight you were holding. And he watched you keep your faith intact, even when the silence from heaven felt like confirmation that you had been forgotten. You were not forgotten, not for 1 second. And here is what I need you to hear, because this is the part that recontextualizes everything you have been through. What felt like abandonment was actually selection. God was not removing people from your life to punish you. He was clearing the room so he could work without interference. What felt like confusion was actually recalibration. Your mind was not breaking down. It was being rewired for a frequency that your old thought patterns could not carry. What felt like delay was actually development. The thing you were waiting for was not late. You were not ready for it yet, and God loved you enough to wait until you were. What felt like loss was actually clearing. Something had to leave your hands before God could place in them what He had been preparing. And what felt like silence, that long, painful silence where heaven seemed empty and your prayers seemed to dissolve before they reached the ceiling, that was not God ignoring you. That was God holding His breath, watching to see what you would do next. And what you did next is the very reason He is impressed. Think about Joseph, not the coat, not the dream interpretation, not the second most powerful man in Egypt. Think about the pit. Think about the moment his own brothers threw him into a hole in the ground and sat down to eat lunch while he screamed. Think about the years that followed. Slavery, false accusation, prison, silence. Year after year, where the dream God gave him looked more like a cruel joke than a promise. And during all of that, Joseph did not become bitter. He did not lose his ability to serve. He did not abandon the character that God had been building in him. And when the moment came, when Pharaoh needed someone with wisdom and integrity and the kind of clarity that can only be forged in darkness, Joseph was ready. Not because he studied, not because he networked, because the pit was not the detour. The pit was the qualification interview. And he passed it in silence, without an audience, without a single person telling him that what he was enduring mattered. That is you. Your season of pressure was never punishment, it was preparation. And I want to give you a name for what has been happening to you, so you never forget it. I call it the qualification principle. It says this: every invisible test you pass becomes a credential in a system the world cannot see. Heaven keeps records that earth does not. And your record, the one written in silence, in patience, in endurance that nobody applauded, that record is the reason doors are about to open that no human hand can explain. And here is what almost stopped you. It was not a person, it was not a circumstance. The only enemy that nearly ended your journey was a voice inside your own head. The voice that said, "You are not enough." The voice that said someone else should be standing where you are. The voice that looked at your imperfect faith, your messy obedience, your inconsistent prayer life, and whispered, "God could never be impressed with this." You heard that voice, and you did not obey it. That is the single most underestimated act of warfare in the entire spiritual life. Because choosing to stay when your own mind tells you to quit requires more courage than any external battle ever could. And you overrode that voice, not once, not twice, hundreds of times, in hundreds of quiet moments that nobody will ever count. And God counted every single one. A diamond does not know its own value while it is underground, but the jeweler knows. He has been counting every cut, every facet, every degree of heat that was needed to turn carbon into clarity. And some who have walked this exact path went further than they ever imagined. They found tools and resources, things like Neuroactive, that supported what God was already doing in their minds and in their spirits. But every one of them will tell you the same thing. The journey always begins with one decision. The decision to believe you are worth what God says you are worth, even when nothing around you confirms it. If you survived those battles, if you know exactly what I am describing because you lived it, type the words, "I survived it," in the comments. Because survival was never the accident, it was the qualification. And before we go any further, I want you to hold on to something. Before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe will stay with you for the rest of this year. A declaration that was not written by me. I received it. And it is waiting for you at the end of this message. Stay with me. You now know that God sees you. You know that He knows you with a depth the Hebrew language calls yada. You know that He watched your specific battles, the relational ones, the internal ones, the silent ones, and He did not look away. But there is one question remaining, the one that changes everything. What exactly impressed Him? What specifically caught the attention of the one whose attention cannot be bought? And what is He now preparing to release because of it? This is the revelation that ties everything together, and I want you to receive it slowly, because what I am about to name are not generic qualities. They are specific things God saw in your life that made heaven stop and take notice. The first thing that impressed God about you is your restraint. You had the power to destroy, and you chose not to use it. There were moments when you held information that could have leveled someone, when one phone call or one conversation could have exposed the person who hurt you, when the truth you carried was a loaded weapon and all you had to do was pull the trigger, and you did not. Not because you were weak, because something inside you knew that the damage would outlast the satisfaction. God saw that restraint, and He pointed to it and said, "That is not human strength. That is my spirit operating in a chosen one." The second thing that impressed God is your consistency. You showed up when nothing was happening. Day after day, week after week, month after month, you kept praying, kept believing, kept doing the quiet work of faithfulness, even though nothing around you was changing. Most people can stay faithful when they can see progress. You stayed faithful in a season where progress was invisible. And that kind of consistency, the kind that does not need feedback to keep going, is the rarest quality heaven observes in a human being. The third thing that impressed God is your compassion. You were wounded and still chose to care for others. You were carrying your own pain, your own battles, your own silent weight, and instead of collapsing inward, you reached outward. You checked on people, you encouraged people, you held space for someone else's tears while your own were still wet on your face. God watched that, and He did not see weakness. He saw the exact kind of heart He trusts with authority, because anyone can lead from strength, but only a chosen one can lead from a wound and still choose gentleness. The fourth thing that impressed God is your honesty. You did not pretend. In a world full of people performing their faith, projecting an image, curating a version of themselves that hides every crack, you chose transparency. You admitted doubt. You admitted fatigue. You admitted that some days your faith felt like a thread and not a rope. And that honesty, that refusal to fake it, is what kept your foundation solid. Because a foundation built on performance will always collapse under pressure. But a foundation built on honest surrender can hold anything God places on top of it. And the fifth thing, the one that moved God more than all the others, is your persistence in faith. You kept believing when the evidence told you to stop, when prayers went unanswered month after month, when the promise looked dead, when the people around you moved on and found easier paths and quieter lives. You stayed in the fire, you stayed in the waiting, you stayed on your knees in a room that gave you nothing back, and you did not stop. That is the thing that impressed God most, not your talent, not your strength, not your accomplishments. Your refusal to stop believing in what He told you, even when every circumstance screamed that it was not coming. And I hear the Father saying, "I am not just impressed with your faith. I am impressed with your restraint. I am impressed with your refusal to become what hurt you. You had every right to turn bitter. You had every right to walk away. You had every right to become hard and cold and closed off from the world that wounded you, and you chose not to. That choice, the one nobody saw, the one nobody celebrated, that is the choice that moved my heart. And it is the reason I am now releasing what I held back until you were ready to carry it. Let me tell you about a man I heard about recently. He was 47 years old. He had spent 3 years in a position where his work went completely unrecognized. Every morning, he showed up and gave his best. Every evening, he went home and wondered if anyone noticed. No promotion, no acknowledgement, no feedback. 3 years of invisible faithfulness. He did not campaign. He did not network. He did not play politics. He simply remained excellent in the assignment no one else wanted. And then one morning, without any warning, without any interview process, without any human explanation, he was promoted to a position 2 levels above where he was. And when he asked why, the only answer he received was, "We have been watching you longer than you think." That is not just a business story. That is your story. Because heaven has been watching you longer than you think, and what is about to happen in your life will not be proportional to your effort. It will be proportional to God's impression of your character. And this brings me to something I need to share with you, because what God is doing in your spirit has a scientific parallel that will help you understand the full picture of what is happening. Earlier in this message, I mentioned research about a specific brain frequency connected to states of deep faith, heightened intuition, and genius-level clarity. Scientists call it the gamma wave. It is the fastest, most powerful brainwave the human brain can produce. And here is what is remarkable. When researchers studied children, they found that gamma activity was strong and natural. Children learn faster, feel deeper, create more freely, and sense things adults miss. But something happens around the age of 7. The modern world, the education system, the constant noise, the pressure to conform, it begins to suppress that frequency. Scientists call it the decline effect. And by adulthood, most people have lost access to the very brainwave that made them brilliant as children. Now here is why this matters to you, chosen one. You were not born with average gamma. You were born with more. That is why you always felt different. That is why you learned faster than the people around you, why your intuition was sharper, why you sensed things that nobody else seemed to notice. And that is also why the decline effect hit you harder than it hit most people. Because the distance between who you were as a child and who you feel like now is not a gap of effort, it is a gap of frequency. And that gap is not permanent. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying exactly this. His work, which built on research from institutions like MIT, Princeton, and Harvard, and several other leading universities, led him to develop something remarkable, a 7-minute audio track that uses a technology called brain entrainment to reactivate gamma waves directly, not through meditation, not through years of practice, through a precise sound frequency that your brain synchronizes with the moment you press play. Some who have explored Dr. Lake's broader research, what he spent decades building around restoring the youthful brain state, describe it as one of the most important discoveries in modern neuroscience. And among those who have used this tool and gone further on the journey, many explored additional support like NeuroActive as part of their continued path. But it always starts with the same first step. I want to be honest with you. I would never disrespect your financial situation or pretend that any amount of money is small. What I will say is this. The traditional path to restoring gamma costs $300 per hour for biofeedback therapy or $7,000 for home equipment. What Dr. Lake created, what he calls the Genius Song, compresses that entire technology into a 7-minute audio track. The regular price is $49, but through the link connected to this message, Dr. Lake has made it available for $39, not as a sale, as a decision he made to reach the people who actually need this. That price is not available on Amazon, not on Spotify, not anywhere else. And it comes with 4 free bonuses: an audio track for children called Genius Child, the original book that inspired the film The Secret, a guided visualization for 4 areas of your life, and an infographic of the 5 most important daily habits. All of that, plus a full money-back guarantee with no conditions. If you try it and feel nothing different, you get your money back. The only risk is not trying, and I want to say this carefully. Every day that passes with your gamma frequency still suppressed is not a neutral day. It is a day where your prayers carry more weight than they need to, where your decisions take more effort than they should, where the clarity that was once natural to you remains locked behind a door that was never supposed to close. The version of you who has already reactivated this frequency, who wakes up with that childhood sharpness restored, who feels the synchronicities return and the fog lift. That version is looking back at this moment right now, not asking you to be perfect, just asking you to take the first step. One important thing: there are counterfeit versions of this out there. Fake websites and imitation products that use the name but do not contain the actual brain entrainment technology. They are just regular audio files dressed up to look legitimate. The only way to receive the authentic Genius song with the full technology, all 4 bonuses, and the money-back guarantee is through the link in the description below this message and in the pinned comment. Do not search for it anywhere else. That link is your only path to the real thing. If your spirit resonates with what I just shared, the link is waiting for you. Investigate it only if you feel led. Type the words, "I release the old ceiling" in the comments, because the ceiling you have been living under was never placed there by God. It was placed there by a frequency that shut down before you had any say in it. And today, you are taking it back. Now it is time to close this message the way heaven instructed. What I am about to declare over your life was not written by me. I received it, and I believe it will follow you for the rest of this season. Let me gather everything into one frame before we enter this closing space. God sees you. He saw every invisible moment of faithfulness that the world missed. God knows you. Not with distant observation, but with yada, the deepest intimacy the Hebrew language can describe. God watched your battles, the relational ones, the internal ones, the silent ones. He was inside every single one of them. And when he looked at what those battles produced in you, the restraint, the consistency, the compassion, the honesty, the persistence, he said something he does not say to just anyone. He said, "I am truly impressed." And because of that impression, 5 areas of your life are now shifting. Your relationships are being reorganized. The people who could not see your value are being moved, and the people who match who you are becoming are being drawn toward you right now. Your purpose is being clarified. The confusion about your calling is lifting, and the specific assignment you were built for is coming into focus with a sharpness you have not felt in years. Your provision is being unlocked. Doors that were sealed shut are developing cracks, and what comes through those doors will not be proportional to your effort, but to God's impression of your character. Your energy is being restored. The fatigue that went deeper than your body, the spiritual weight that sleep could not touch, that is lifting, and your spiritual authority is being elevated. The voice that once felt uncertain when you prayed is about to carry a weight and a resonance that shifts rooms before you finish speaking. This is what I call the impression inventory. And I want you to ask yourself 5 questions, not out loud, just inside your own spirit. First, what is the one thing I endured that I never told anyone about? That is the thing God is most impressed by. Second, what is the kindness I showed when I was the one who needed kindness? That is the compassion heaven recorded. Third, what is the prayer I gave up on? That is the prayer God is about to answer. Fourth, what is the area where I feel most invisible? That is the area where the breakthrough is closest. And fifth, what would I do tomorrow if I fully believed that God was impressed with me right now? That answer is your next step. And here is a daily practice I want to leave with you. I call it the Mirror Reset Protocol. It takes 30 seconds. Every morning, before you check any message, before you look at any screen, I want you to say one sentence to yourself. Not out loud if you do not want to, just inside. The sentence is this: God is impressed with me, and today I will live like someone who knows it. That is it. One sentence. Every morning. And over time, that sentence will dismantle every false belief about your worth that the world ever installed in you. You are not alone in this. Right now, all across the world, chosen ones are receiving this same revelation. They are hearing these same words. They are feeling the same shift you are feeling. And together, without knowing each other's names or faces, you are all stepping into the same season, a season where the invisible becomes visible, where the faithful are finally recognized, where the ones who stayed are given what was held back until the right moment. If this space has become a place of truth for your spirit, remain connected, not for me, but because more revelations like this are coming, and the next one may carry the word that unlocks the door you have been standing in front of. Now I want you to do something with me. Whether you are lying in bed or sitting quietly or driving right now, you can do this wherever you are. In your mind, I want you to imagine yourself standing in a room with no mirrors, no audience, no stage, no performance. Just you and a single warm light that fills the space around you. This light is not evaluating you. It is not grading you. It is not waiting for you to do something impressive before it stays. It is simply there because you are there. And in this room, for the first time, you are not trying to prove anything. You are not rehearsing your worth. You are not defending your existence. You are simply standing in the truth of who you already are. And the light gets warmer. And the weight of everything you have been carrying, the performance, the proving, the endless loop of "Am I enough?" It begins to slide off your shoulders like a coat you forgot you were wearing. This is not a prayer. This is a homecoming. This is you returning to the frequency God designed you to carry. And now we enter the sacred closing. I want to begin with gratitude, not the kind that performs, the kind that trembles. Thank you. Thank you for watching every invisible moment and not looking away. Thank you for staying in the silence when I thought you had left. Thank you for holding the parts of me that were falling apart while I slept, for pressing my faith back together when I did not have the strength to hold it myself. Thank you for not measuring me by my worst days. Thank you for counting the things I did right that nobody else noticed. Thank you for being impressed, not with my perfection, but with my refusal to stop trying. I know you see me. I know you see the weight behind the smile I wear in public. I know you see the questions I hold in the dark, the ones I am too afraid to pray out loud because I am not sure I want to hear the answers. I know you see the faithfulness I showed in the smallest moments, the ones that did not feel like faithfulness at the time, the ones that just felt like surviving. You saw all of it, and you did not turn away. You leaned closer. And now, It is time to release. I release the need for human validation. Release. I release the belief that I must be perfect before I can be worthy. Release. I release the old measure, the one the world gave me that was never accurate. Release. I release the ceiling that told me, this is as far as you go. Release. I release the voice that said, God could never be impressed with someone like me. Release. I release the comparison with people whose battles I have never seen. Release. I release the shame of the invisible years as if they were wasted. They were not wasted. They were the forge. Release. I release every lie that told me I was too broken, too late, too ordinary, too tired to be chosen. Release. And now, I activate. I call forth the truth carrier in you, the one who sees through illusion and cannot live a lie even when the lie would be more comfortable. I activate the wounded healer, the one whose scars became medicine for others, whose pain became a door that only you can open for people who are trapped behind the same wall you once faced. I activate the light bearer, the one who walks into dark rooms and changes the atmosphere without saying a word. And I activate the seer, the one who perceives what others miss, who feels the shift before it arrives, who has always known things they could not explain. These are not aspirations. These are descriptions of who you already are. I activate them now. I activate divine connections that match who you are becoming. I activate doors that only respond to the frequency of someone who impressed heaven. I activate provision that has been held in reserve for exactly this moment in your timeline. And I cover this rising. I place protection over everything that is being built in you right now. I cover it from self-sabotage, from the old pattern that destroys good things right before they fully form. I cover it from premature exposure, from being seen too soon by people who are not ready to handle what you carry. I protect the diamond from those who cannot yet see its value, from the careless hands that would treat a priceless stone like an ordinary rock. What God is building in you is too important to be left unguarded. And so, I speak a wall of fire around this season, around this shift, around every breakthrough that is being prepared for you right now. And I hear the Father saying for the final time in this message, you are not someone I tolerate, you are not someone I manage, you are not a project I am trying to fix, you are someone I showcase. When I look at the expanse of everything I have created, when I survey the billions of souls walking this earth, and I come to you, I pause. I pause because what I see in you is the thing I value most. Not power, not perfection, faithfulness under pressure. And that, my child, is why I chose the word impressed, because you earned it in the fire. You earned it in the silence. You earned it in the invisible hours that no one will ever count except me. I am not someone God tolerates. I am someone God showcases. I am the one who impressed heaven, not with perfection, with persistence. I am the chosen one who stayed when leaving was easier, who stayed when silence was deafening, who stayed when the only evidence of God was the fact that I had not collapsed yet. I am worthy, not because I earned it, because God saw something in me that I could not yet see in myself. I am ready, ready for the doors, ready for the connections, ready for the provision, ready for the authority, ready for everything that was held back until this exact moment. Type those words in the comments. I am impressed by God, and God is impressed by me. Let that be your seal. Let that be the declaration that heaven records over your name today. Do not say amen yet. I want you to sit in this frequency, just for a moment. Let the weight of everything that was spoken settle into your spirit. Do not rush past this. The declaration you just heard is not background noise. It is alive, and it is working in you right now, even as you sit in this stillness. You are no longer underground. The light is about to hit you for the first time, and the world is about to see what God has always seen. What has been sealed today is only the beginning. There is an embrace coming. Some who have walked this road before you call it destiny's embrace, that you are now ready to receive. But for today, this is enough. What was spoken is enough. What was declared is enough. And what was planted in your spirit will grow in ways you cannot yet imagine. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it. In the mighty name above every name. Amen. Before you go, share this message with someone who has been unusually quiet lately. Someone carrying something heavy that they have not told anyone about. Someone who needs to hear that God is not disappointed in them, that He is impressed. You know who they are. Their face just appeared in your mind. Send this to them. It might be the word that keeps them going. And if this declaration lives in your spirit now, let your like be your final Amen. Not for me, for the message, so it reaches the next chosen one who needs to hear it tonight.